Hi, I'm Jenny Fish from One Big Happy Yarn Company. We want to be your local yarn shop no matter where you are. Welcome back to our Eyelet Shawl knit along. We are making this eyelet shawl with the Cascade 220 Superwash yarn. In this episode, we will finish up with binding off, measuring, and blocking this triangle shawl. If you still need supplies, check out onebighappy.com. Let's get started. So I've been working on my little sample piece right here. I've done 3 repeats of the pattern, and I've gone ahead and started binding off so that I can show you, just review simply how I bound off or cast off on this project. You knit one, then you knit the next one, then you up and over, slide that first stitch up and over. It's just your standard bind off or cast off. It's called both things. Just lift the first stitch up and over. And as you can see, as I'm binding off, on your I've only done 3 repeats. On your project, you'll have 10 repeats, and your total amount of stitches when you're done is going to be 329 stitches. It seems like an awful lot, but that's what gives you the outside edge of your shawl when you're finished, is all of these stitches that you're binding off. Because remember, you started up around the neck in the beginning, and this is the outside edge. Okay, so I finished binding off. I'm going to just go ahead and put my yarn through that loop right there. Pull that out. So these are the stitches that I just bound off after that 3rd repeat. Like I said, you'll have 10 repeats and 329 stitches when you're ready to bind off. Now what we need to do is go ahead and weave in our ends. And to do that, because we've done the Russian join throughout this project, we only have 2 ends that we have to weave in, the beginning and the end tail. So I am using this clover bent tip needle. It has a little bit of a bend at the end of the needle. It just is my preferred needle to use. And I have threaded it with the tail, and I'm just going to go in, because we have this garter ridge and this part. Let me show you where that's at on the finished shawl. I'm going to open this up here. And again, this is where we started, so this is the cast on. I want to weave in my end on the wrong side of the fabric, and I am going to do a duplicate stitch, which means I'm going to hide my tail on the back side of the work following a previous stitch. So I'm going to go in through here, up through there, and just follow those stitches that are in there. And what this does is it hides that extra yarn, and then it also secures that tail. So go in there, through there, around to here. And if you can't see the exact stitch, get close. And you can use whatever weave-in technique you like. I just prefer this one, and I like to go for about 1 inch by following those stitches. Go through there. And then you can just simply clip that off once you've got it in there. And I'm on the back side of the work. It's not going to show. Just clip that off right there. Also, too, while we're looking at this, you can see in this section here is where the Russian join was from before. This is the purl bump that I went down into to increase a stitch. And on the right side of the fabric, look at that. You don't even see it. I love that little trick there. And the only thing that you're seeing on the back side is where you pick up that stitch to increase right there. Okay, let's go ahead, and here is our last tail that we need to weave in. And I'm going to go to the back side. And here I'm going to work through this garter ridge too, going back in right there on that loop and around, just following these stitches and around, down. Like I said, use whatever method you're most comfortable with. This is just my preferred method of weaving in my ends, is following that stitch and hiding so I don't have a lot of bunching up. And I go for about an inch, almost done. Now with this Cascade 220 superwash yarn that I'm using, it's a pretty standard yarn. I do have some left over. I really love this shawl. This is what I'm personally going to wear and keep. And I'm not giving it away, so I want to keep some of the extra yarn just in case it gets snagged on something and I need to fix something later. So here's a little tip. When you're finished with your project, take about 9 to 12 inches of yarn and weave it into your project on the back side or someplace hidden. If you're doing a sweater, you can hide it in the band, whatever, wherever you can hide it. That way that yarn will go through washing and wearing just like your garment. If you get any snags or holes later on in your project, you can take that extra bit of yarn out and use that to repair any snags or holes. Okay, so now we're ready to cut our tail and start blocking. So now that we have finished up and we've weaved in our ends, you can see how curly this little sample is. And by the way, I love making these little smaller versions. I have a little 3-year-old, soon to be 4-year-old at home, and I was just looking at this going, oh my gosh, her little doll is gonna love this little shawl. So this was exciting to me, for me to make this little sample for you guys. Plus I get to show you how to block. See how these edges are curling in? When you block your project, it stops doing that. As you can tell in this one here that's already finished and been blocked, see how it lays flat, nice and neat? That's what happens after you wet block this. So I have my little guy here and some water. You can use a wool wash, or you can also use baby shampoo. There's other brands out there for washing your wool items. Feel free to use that on here, follow the label. And some room temperature water. Now you like to soak your project in the water for about at least 15 minutes. I like to let mine soak for about 30 minutes. I just set a timer on my microwave and walk away and just let it sit. What that does is it allows the water to get into all of those fibers, and then your yarn just blooms. All your stitches kind of fall into place, and it just makes the project look more finished when you've done that. But we just let that soak in there. Then when you're done, when you go to get the water out, you do not want to wring like you wring a washcloth. You want to squeeze, because by wringing it, you then distort your stitches, and we don't want that to happen. So another way to help get the water out that doesn't disrupt those stitches is by using a towel. And let's set that here. Okay, so I'm just going to gently squeeze this water out. This Cascade 220 is a super wash wool. It is a workhorse of a yarn. I really like working with this. I think that this yarn is just an all-around general all-purpose yarn, and it worked up fantastically in this shawl. Now, one thing you'll notice, do you see how big this just got once it got wet? It just totally stretched out from where it was before. That's okay. When it dries, it shrinks back up. So the finished measurements on your project are going to be around 78 inches for the wingspan that goes from, you know, the long part that goes across the back of your neck is going to be about 78 inches. And then down the middle of your back is about 32 inches. When this project is finished, because of the yarn and just nature being as it is, all that weight from your yarn is going to pull it down. So you will have a little bit more length when you're blocking this, and then once you're finished blocking, it will shrink up a little bit when it's completely dry. So you'll see those changes. Don't worry about them. It's natural. It's what happens. Okay, I've got my wet, see how I've got it folded? Because it just grew so much when it got wet, but that's okay. I'm going to roll it up into the towel and press on it. And this is wicking out all that extra water that's, oh, not all of the extra water, a lot of the extra water. This is wicking that out. If you have another towel, you could wrap it up in another towel and do that a second time if you like. But I've just got this one right here. We've pulled out all that extra water. I'm using the Mindful blocking mats with these little blockers here. I absolutely love this system. It's, and I love their color too. But, okay, so like I said, this grew a little once it got wet. It's perfectly fine. I'm going to go ahead and I want to keep, this is the neckband portion, and I want to keep that as straight as possible. I like to pin under the garter edge right there. That gives me, that's where I like to try to keep my straight edge at, is right around there. And then, so I've got these littler ones here are great for the outside edge. Stick that there and stick that there. Just, I'm curious, but to see what size this is, but you go right ahead and measure yours. Look at my little sheep tape measure. He's so cute. So, the finished, what I'm going to do, because this is a sample, but each section is about 3 inches. And because it's on the diagonal, I'm kind of going just right across here, and I'm seeing that I'm coming up at 3 inches. And that looks great. That's right where I want it to be. I almost feel like I need a level for this project. Maybe a tape measure with a level on it would be great. I don't know if they make those. I'll have to ask our product people, see if there's a tape measure with a level on it. Okay, so I've got that side measured out. I've got this side measured out. They're right around 3 inches per repeat. I can move these in and out of this foam board wherever I need. It's very, very helpful. Okay, that's pretty close right there. And then I don't have, let's see. We can do this. Let's see what this is. It's a little shorter than 3 inches. There we go. Okay. So I'm going to put one right here because I want this to point out just a little bit more. And I'm going to set it like that. That's a personal preference. That's how I kind of want mine to look. So we've blocked it. We've let it dry. Now you're ready to wear it. How do you wear it? Funny you should ask. Thank you for joining me for the Eyelet Shawl knit-along. I had a blast designing this pattern and showing you how to knit it. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button and click the bell to be notified the next time we have a new video. Happy knitting!